I always say you need to rank and resonate if you want to convert, because you can rank with AI content, right? You can spit stuff into ChatGPT, pull out a load of copy for a page and hope for the best. I've made almost all the mistakes in the book when it comes to messaging, positioning, and truly learnt the hard way. So many websites, so many articles, so many comparison pages, like it's just not believable. In fact, it's a repellent, right? If you're not transparent, if you don't lead with kind of where you aren't as great or where your flaws are, and then where you excel, just builds a lot more trust. Does the same in sales calls, does the same on websites, does the same in messaging.
Hey, welcome to the Message Market Fit podcast. I'm your host, Chris Silvestri. This is the show where we chat with B2B SaaS folks, marketers, product leads, growth owners, and founders about how they join the conversation already happening in their customers' mind. We unpack how they think, how they research, and how they shape messages that actually move the needle. No fluff, just systems, insight, and strategy you can actually use. Quick note before we dive in. This podcast isn't sponsored. It's supported by Conversion Alchemy, my own consulting business. So if you're listening and thinking, I wonder how aligned our messaging actually is, check out the Message Market Fit Scorecard. It's a free diagnostic tool I built to help B2B SaaS teams pinpoint exactly where their messaging might be breaking down. You'll find the link in the show notes. Today on the podcast, we have Sam Dunning. He's the founder of Breaking B2B, a company focused on B2B SaaS SEO that drives revenue, not vanity metrics. In this episode, we chat about strategies for creating content that generates qualified leads rather than just traffic, how to build effective competitor comparison pages that actually convert, and the future of SEO in the age of AI. Let's dive right in. Hey Sam, thanks so much for being here. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Chris. I'm looking forward to the chat.
Awesome. So I'm always starting this conversation with kind of a big question or something that's related to messaging because I'm a big nerd on copy and everything. So I was looking at your website and your value proposition is B2B SaaS SEO for revenue, not vanity. So what do you mean by that? And what's your angle there? Walk us through it.
Yeah, great place to start. So I suppose the angle is I've made almost all the mistakes in the book when it comes to messaging, positioning, and truly learnt the hard way. So I'll try and give you like a condensed story of how I got to it. I basically, before I started this company, Breaking B2B, about 14, 15 months back, I worked in and out of web agencies, web design, web development, the best part of 10, 11, 12 years. But we were trying to sell to basically anyone and everyone. Small businesses, big businesses, medium businesses, software companies, service companies, pet shops, sweet shops, Bob down the street, whoever might want a website. And it's painful, man. Like when people don't understand the value of something and trying to convince folks and all that kind of stuff is really difficult when it's selling, especially a service that's not necessarily tangible. It's a digital product. So where does that take me? So I eventually niched down to helping B2B companies and SaaS companies strictly on the SEO and content marketing side. A lot of what I've got from my messaging has come from, just like yourself, running a podcast. I run a show called Breaking B2B, where we interview B2B and SaaS marketing leaders and do some solo episodes too. Probably much like yourself, I chat to marketing leaders on LinkedIn all the time. And what I kept hearing was things like that they had an SEO agency or they had a contractor, and those folks, they sent awesome reports at the end of the month, but it was all these rankings went up or these amount of traffic went up to the website, but nothing was really coming in on the back end in terms of qualified leads or booked calls or demos or whatever that end, or sign-ups, depending on the conversion goal. And that was quite a common theme. So I'm quite a simple guy. I don't do anything too complex. I thought, well, I'm hearing this quite a lot on sales calls that people are saying that they don't like this about agencies. And I quite like the idea of picking a fight, picking an enemy and standing against something to be remembered. And then I think what I did was, when I started Breaking B2B maybe 15 months ago, I put a poll on LinkedIn, and I think I had 3 or 4, maybe 5 different headlines, and B2B SEO for revenue, not vanity was one of them. And then I had a few variations, like one was like a benefit-driven value pop and something like that. And that one just got by far the best feedback. So I thought, let's try that and see how it goes.
Love it. And I'm curious about vanity. How do you define vanity? What do you see people use as far as vanity metrics?
Yeah, I suppose from our point of view, it's anything that's not actually driving sales pipeline or revenue from the SEO perspective. So it's not to say things like all traffic is vanity, because some of it could be qualified traffic for genuinely interested folks that have that sales intent that are going to Google or an AI engine or LLMs now searching for your offer directly. But it's more, and we can dive into this later, but a lot of SEO traffic, or a lot of the way SEO work traditionally is changing. So going for traffic at all costs, and what I mean by that is trying to target top funnel terms like informational based keywords like what is a KPI or what is a website or what is a CRM, super simple terms that are now getting blown out in Google's case by AI overviews, which traditionally folks would try and build articles to rank for all these topics, try and get as much traffic to their website as possible, but it would never actually turn into demos because these are just like students trying to learn or folks really on in the journey and that kind of stuff. They don't have that intent to speak to a salesperson. So it's basically saying, because we know it from SEO isn't what it used to be, and we want to take an approach that actually is going to result in stuff that feeds your sales team qualified inbound leads or gets you sign up.
Okay, so why do you then think that a lot of SEO is not driving pipeline? What's happening?
Yeah, I think it's because traditionally with SEO, that was the play. And when I say that, I mean going for traffic at all costs was the play. Because a lot of folks took the old HubSpot model, which was basically try and rank for everything and everything around inbound marketing. And if you saw the recent news around HubSpot, they lost a ton of traffic, but the articles that were ranking were things like I think it was stuff like top movie quotes or top folks from certain series or stuff like that. Or maybe it was funny salespeople jokes or something like that. Just stuff that was super vaguely related to their niche. And a while back, Google cracked down basically on, they basically put out one of their guidelines that was, if you're going to put content on your website, it needs to be super relevant to your niche and your ideal client profile and your audience. Otherwise, sites like Forbes, for example, could post about anything and everything, rank for anything and everything. But when you go to the site as an end user, it's like, what is the actual end goal here? It's just all this content. Yeah, you can drive all this traffic, but what's the point? And my niche is B2B service and SaaS companies. And the point I guess I'm getting to is at the end of the day, most of us are investing in an SEO program for both Google Organic and AI search now because we want to drive pipeline as the end goal. So if we're trying to rank for all these informational terms like what is something or how to do something that are super vague, not that crisp to our offer, not specific to the problem we're solving, then yeah, it might drive traffic, but is that traffic going to have the sales intent? So we basically flipped on its head. And we think, how can we get the quickest time to value possible? AKA, let's work out what a dream client is going to search for when they need our software, our solution, our service now, or they're comparing vendors, or they have a very painful, expensive, bleeding neck problem that they're typing to solve now, where we can position our product as a solution. Let's start there because that's where the money is. Then we can work up the funnel once we've exhausted that. So that's the logic behind it, and happy to dive into kind of more depth on how to do that.
For sure. Before we dive into the process, because I would like to learn how this informed it. How did you get into SEO and why do you like it? What do you like about it?
Mostly selfish reasons, really.
It's pretty much the same, don't worry.
Yeah, I suppose there's a few reasons. One was, like I touched on earlier, I used to be at a web development agency for a good few years and became a partner in that, eventually exited out. But one of the main sources of leads there was I was one of the co-owners at that company. It was SEO. And that was, I think at the time we were ranking like position 1 to 2 for the company. So we were getting some really nice inbound leads through Google. And it took years to build up because that was a really competitive term. It was very broad, it was very generic, but it brought in some nice leads. And I thought this is quite a good route. And what I found was with sites, it was very lumpy, unpredictable revenue. So you could sell a big site 1 month, and then the next month you might not think, and then the next month you'll sell a massive site, and then you have this up and down revenue model, which was not really sustainable unless you get folks on maintenance retainers and that kind of stuff. So I thought it's probably a better way. And that's when I thought, let's focus on SEO because that's typically, yes, we do sprints and we do projects, but a lot of B2B SaaS teams lack or have rather small marketing teams that are typically overworked, overwhelmed, have got dozens of tasks on their plate. So they're quite often looking for an SEO partner that can look after the full strategy and execution. Therefore look for a sustained monthly partner. So yeah, it made sense from a selfish angle to get recurring revenue. And also as being a founder that sells, I knew the value of it. because I knew there's nothing more frustrating than calling leads that will never close, speaking to tire kickers, dealing with folks that can't afford your offer, and dealing with folks that don't have the problem you solve or that don't see the value in the offer that you have to convince. And so I thought, if there's a way that we can attract these inbound leads that genuinely have the problem we solve and are motivated to do something about it inbound for ourselves, why not do the same for our clients? And like I say, eventually niche down to B2B tech and enjoy the process, enjoy writing about it, enjoy learning about it. Google's forever moving the goalposts, so it's never a boring day at the office.
Yeah, especially with AI now.
Exactly.
So you mentioned these high intent buying keywords or the traffic, more qualified traffic, high intent traffic. And I'm wondering, isn't that super competitive? How do we find those that still have potential, but still high intent and high quality?
You're exactly right. Some of those search terms, some of those topics, some of those keywords can be really competitive. Like an example I often give is, let's pretend, guys I often encourage folks to do that have maybe got a limited budget but want to attack SEO and get some revenue, get some pipeline out of it, is let's pretend we're in a competitive space. So the example I often use is calendar scheduling software. Super competitive. You've got folks like Chili Piper, Calendly, Revenue Hero, big players. So I would say, look, let's fire up a Google Sheet or an Excel sheet. And in that Google Sheet, fire up kind of 3 main columns, or you can do 4 or 5. And in those columns, I would quite literally list down, 1, what is the offer that we want to sell? In this case, scheduling software, scheduling platforms, scheduling tools, however our team and our prospects refer to it. Column 2 would be, what are the industries that we serve best? So historically, let's chat to our sales team. Let's look through our CRM. What are the types of businesses, types of niches, types of industries that, 1, have that expensive problem we solve, 2, are motivated to solve it, 3, we've historically sold well to, and 4, we actually enjoy doing business with. And that could be whatever, HR, fintech, sales, recruitment. You'd know this better than me. And the third one is, this works well in tech, is what are our main competitors? So what are the competitors that always get raised on sales calls, that we're always being stacked up against, almost to a frustrating level? And if that was the calendar scheduling world, that would be Calendly, Chili Piper, Revenue Hero, maybe HubSpot meetings, and there's a bunch of others, right? Tidy Cow, loads. So do those 3 main columns. There is other ones we can talk about in a sec, but the reason we're doing this is we want to build out long tail keywords. And like you said, Chris, if we're trying to rank for things like best calendar scheduling software or best calendar scheduling tools, it's going to be really competitive. We'll have, especially if we're a newer website and we don't have much content, folks like Chili Piper, Calendly will just be owning those top spots organically, because they'll have such a high authority of their website, domain authority, through the backlinks they've earned over the years. They have way more content. It's going to be an uphill battle. So I'd say, yeah, maybe go for that, but do that as a real long-term goal, just to steadily chip away at. In the meantime, there's, like with many things, there's riches in the niches. So if we can go for more longer tail search queries, so instead of just going for best calendar scheduling software, we might go for best calendar scheduling software for recruitment or for sales or for HR, for fintech, like adding a keyword for the industry we serve. It's exactly. So that's one way you can go about it. And the other one that works really well is competitor alternatives. So in this case, if we know that Calendly or Chili Piper or Revenue Hero are a competitor, folks often evaluate 3 or 4 vendors. They make a short list in B2B before they buy. They'll discuss the companies internally, have a debate, and then eventually make a decision. That's why competitor alternative or competitor pricing or competitor review based keywords work really well. So those can often rank within 30, 40 days, we've seen. So if you search for like Revenue Hero alternatives, usually what ranks for those is, like, we reviewed the top 10 Revenue Hero alternatives for 20. It'll be a listicle, and typically you'll have an intro, you'll position your own product as number 1, and then you have the others behind, underneath. Ideally, you've got a fair comparison, and ideally you're talking about your differentiators in the market rather than just how great you are, and you're featuring your product in action. So those are a few. And those are good at the bottom of the funnel. Going more top funnel, jobs to be done, can work quite well. So rather than just, I don't know, in the calendar scheduling space, like how to book a meeting, something like how to schedule time with prospects without email back and forth, like a really crisp and specific problem that you're picking up from sales calls. And then, yeah, it might not have that much search volume. A lot of these terms won't, but it's really crisp and specific to the problem that you're addressing. And then in that article, you might say, look, this is one way that you can get the job done, like email back and forth. It's going to be painful for everyone. Or you can then show a GIF of your product and say, oh, you can do this. And you're going to get instant scheduling, book a free trial here. It's going to save you like hours each week. So those are a few ways. There is a lot more in the mid-funnel as well, but those are a few ways that you can drive those high-intent prospects and rank a bit faster.
Yeah. For those long-term keywords, is there like a minimum traffic that you need to have, or it's just basically based on your research and you just trust that? How does it work?
Good question. So there's a few ways to look at it. One is with those kind of offer plus industry, they'll probably have good search traffic, like calendar scheduling software for recruitment. They'll probably be like 50 or so searches a month, 100 searches a month, whatever. They've got good sales intent behind them, so don't worry too much about the traffic. When you get to more niche, like picking up keywords from sales calls, I'd only go after them if it's something you keep hearing. So even if it was like 0 search volume on Ahrefs or SEMrush or SEO tools, if you keep hearing it on sales calls, there's going to be demand. People are going to be searching for it. You've got to be a bit careful, because if you're just trying to guess and then trying to rank for this really long keyword that's not got search traffic behind it, that's a bit of a gamble. But if you keep hearing it, that's fine. Or you might need to go for something that's closely linked to it and then use a tool like Ahrefs or SEMrush to assist you on a relevant search term that matches that.
Yeah.
That's the advice I'd probably give.
Love it. Yeah. It's very much, there's some science, but also some intuition and a kind of understanding the patterns that you see in your research. So I wanted to dive into your process as well. What does your process look like? What stages do you go into? How does it work?
Yeah. I'll try and make it as actionable as possible. So we've talked a bit about what I call identifying money keywords. So these bottom of funnel, high sales intent search terms that prospects will look for on Google or now ChatGPT and similar tools. Now we want to actually rank for them. So on Google organic perspective, and some of this carries through to ChatGPT and similar, is one of the simplest ways of working out, once we've got our exhaustive list of money keywords, one of the simplest ways to work out what's actually going to rank is just search for it on Google. So for example, if we wanted to rank for, let's say to start with, we want to go down the competitor route. So maybe we want to rank for chili piper alternative. Just Google the keyword, look for what commonly appears on page 1 organic. So you'll probably, like I talked about earlier, probably mostly what will be there is listicles like we review the top 10 chili piper alternatives 2025, review the top 3 pages that are ranking and look for gaps in those. So it might be that the top one is only comparing 5 options, for example. So we might say, I'm very much of the nature that if I'm going to build a new page, I want to blow the existing content out of the water. I don't want to revisit it and mess around in 3 months, 4 months. So I would just try and double it as straight away. And it might be that page that's ranking kind of for their own write-up of their product, just talks about their benefits and how good they are. So I might think, which is something you probably lean into, Chris, a lot better than myself, is kind of doing some customer research behind it, kind of making sure that messaging is spot on in terms of, all right, what can we pull in terms of problems we solve the others don't when we talk about our products? What comparison tables can we do against those competitors? Why do folks choose us? Maybe we'll weave in some social proof, like a customer review video, testimonial, explaining specifically why they chose us over chili piper or Calendly or whatever it is. And this is why I switched. It's really convincing. And then feature the product in action, and then a call to action, and then a fair comparison of the other 9 or 10 products underneath. It's just looking for gaps in that strategy. The only thing I'd say as well is, when it comes to SEO, a lot of technical SEO is really overhyped. So especially in B2B and SaaS, like when folks are new to SEO, so many websites are really thin on content. Just in B2B and SaaS, like I'm talking 10, 15 pages, like home, about, product, let's book a demo, something like that. So you don't need to worry about technical SEO much, because your page speed is probably going to be fine. You don't have tons and tons of pages to slow your site down. All you really need to do is, when you've got a focus keywords, in this case, chili piper alternatives, you have that in your meta title. You have it in your URL, like yourdomain.com/chili piper-alternatives. You have that as your 1H1 tag. Like we reviewed the top X chili piper alternatives. You have a couple internal links in the page to some relevant content, and you have another couple articles maybe that link back to that piece. Aside from that, you don't need to do much on technical SEO. When you're starting out, it's not until you get hundreds and hundreds of pages that it becomes more and more important. I'd focus more on shipping out this kind of revenue pipeline driving content at speed. So that's one use case. If we flip it a bit and say maybe we wanted to rank for, I don't know, how to reduce back and forth on email for my sales team, something like that as an example. Again, we'd look for what's ranking. It's probably going to be a how-to article, and we might realize that these are quite thin, basic articles. So we might say, look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a quick intro. I'm going to actually weave in a YouTube video embed that talks about exactly how you can do it and the problem with the traditional way and introducing our new, better way. Maybe I'm going to weave in our process, going to weave in some customer quotes. I'm going to have an FAQ section at the bottom. I'm going to weave in images of our product, a social proof, just looking for gaps where you can one-up it, leverage customer research, and just make your article more useful, position your product as the painkiller, have a clear call to action, add some proof, show some signs of trust. So have an author at the top with the picture of whoever wrote it, the date and the name, just these kind of basic signals that appeal to something called EEAT, experience, expertise, authority, trust with Google. So that's a couple ideas of that, what I call the blow out the water strategy. See what's ranking, look to one up it, do basic technical SEO, and leverage kind of customer insights as you're building it. So I think it's really important. A lot of SEOs focus on just ranking. So you need to rank and resonate if you want to convert, because you can rank with AI content, right? You can spit stuff into ChatGPT, pull out a load of copy for a page and hope for the best, and it might rank. But if someone's landing on that page and it's just saying like crazy words like, we're going to turbocharge your revenues for 2025 and beyond with all-in-one, all singing, all dancing tech.
Synergies.
Yeah, exactly, with lots of synergy. Is it really going to resonate with those prospects, or are they just going to think like this website page is talking nonsense and then bounce off to your competitor, especially if it's a high-ticket offer? So that's a few things to consider.
Yeah, love it. And yeah, that's actually a thing that I get asked a lot when I write copy, when I create messaging as well. Some clients might ask me, hey, do you keep SEO in mind when you do like your copy? And what I tell them, it's I don't do technical SEO, if that's what you mean. I don't do keyword stuffing, but in theory, like organically, my messaging research work leads to copy that resonates first in the first place. And it's probably also contains those high intent keywords or those long tail keywords as well. Obviously, I'm not an SEO expert, but the copy in theory, it's optimized for, especially now that Google has the EEAT framework. And I wanted to ask how much of a weight does that EEAT framework has over technical SEO? Is there like a split in how important one is over the other, or is it pretty much equal? Or
I would always bear it in mind if you're putting together a piece of content, especially because I'd imagine a lot of folks tuning into this will be in B2B tech and SaaS, and a lot of which are probably selling quite a high ticket solution, be it software or service. And the thing is, you've got to remember, if someone lands on a page and it's just, like you say, AI nonsense, it's not genuinely useful to their use case, to the problem to solve or the solution they're trying to evaluate, then they're just, like, folks don't have much patience. They're trying to get a job done. They're going to skim it and bounce off to a competitor that gives them a better experience. So that's one thing. And you've got to show that you know your prospects' world. That's just basic B2B marketing. So that's why it's important from a kind of, I guess, a resonating perspective. And also, like you say, like, showing those signs to Google, whether if it was a how-to article, like that you've got that author that wrote it, that you're weaving in some trust signals, some social proof, testimonials, examples, customer quotes, etc. You're showing that you generally understand the topic and all that good stuff. It's more common sense, but I would, technical SEO aside, I would put way more weight on, yes, adhering to EEAT, but also publishing at scale. That's one way that as a smaller business or a startup, that you can start outranking giant in your industry. Because what you'll find is a lot of the bigger competitors you're going against, they'll have so much red tape in place, in the sense that because they're massive organizations, like it might take them months to get pages approved to publish on their website, in the sense that they might do some keyword research, they might realize they need to build a page, then it goes off to one team to build the copy, goes off to another team to check the copy, another team to sign off the copy, then someone else has got to design it, then a web developer's got to develop it, then legal have got to check it. 5 months later, we still haven't published a page. Meanwhile, your smaller business, your scrappy business, can be doing this keyword research we talked about, exhausting all those money, those pipeline driving search terms, building out content, whether it's a landing page, an article, a comparison, whatever, but doing it at a steady pace, like, I don't know, a week or whatever's realistic, publishing it, and like slowly chipping away at these competitors. And they can be earning backlinks, and I can share some ways to earn backlinks if you like, which can help with LLMs as well. So the point I'm making is that's probably, if you do those best practices we talk about, publishing at scale is going to be one of your major advantages. As it just means, I mean, it takes, after you publish a page, from Google's perspective, it can take up to 3 months or so to get ranked, like 90 days or so. So the quicker you get stuff out, the quicker you can start putting more lines in the water.
Yeah. And does Google value consistency and regularity, or you can do like batches of content?
Yeah, exactly. I'd say it's not even just thinking of it from a Google perspective. It's more thinking it from a business case. Like, we want to own this category. So I keep going back to calendar scheduling. So why not have a page for every way that a prospect could search for it when they have high sales intent? So if that was best calendar scheduling software, or for recruitment, for HR, for fintech, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a page for each of those use cases. We have a page for each and every competitor we're going against. We even have versus pages, like competitor 1 versus competitor 2. We have all these how-to articles on these crisp specific problems. We're literally building a moat around our website for almost anything that a high sales intent prospect could search for. And the quicker we can get decent content, doesn't have to be 100% perfect, because we can always see how it ranks 3 months later, refresh it or update it if we need to. If we can get that out the door, we know that we're going to get ahead of some of these competitors, because they're only publishing like 1 or 2 every couple months because they've got so much red tape.
Yeah, makes sense. I wanted to ask, when it comes to, you mentioned the websites that have maybe those core pages, 10, 20 pages. So in my work, I typically write the core pages of a website, like a homepage, pricing pages, use case pages, comparison pages, and all those. And I wanted to ask, how much impact those have on SEO versus the blog? And can you also rank for pages that don't have a lot of content? I don't know, like a simple persona page or use case page?
Good question. Good question. So this all comes back to something called assessing the intent. So certainly from a Google perspective, at least. So it's going back to that stage we talked about earlier. What do we want to rank for? Let's go to use case. So calendar scheduling tool for HR teams or for fintech, whatever we want to do. Let's say fintech. So we search that. What might well rank there would be a landing page. So scheduling tools for fintech teams, as an example. So that would be a landing page, perhaps a product page, however you want to present it. So that would be a case where someone like yourself, Chris, might need to get involved. But on the flip side, it could be an article that ranks. So it could be, for some cases, it's basically seeing what Google favors. When it comes to competitor comparisons, like Chili Piper alternatives, Revenue Hero alternatives, usually it's like we review the top 10 competitors, and that's an article. If it's a how-to something, that's usually an article. If it's an offer plus use case, that could be a landing page. If it's a solution-based term, that could be a landing page. But sometimes it gets confusing, because for some terms you can rank with, we've done this for a few of our clients where we've ranked for both, so own 2 organic spots for the same keyword for both a landing page then an article. So sometimes Google has mixed intent, so you can rank for 2 things. But to answer your question, it's basically seeing what Google favors and then building a page for that, or 2 pages. Or if you've already got those pages on your website, then getting a healthy balance. So making sure that landing page is going to be useful for that end ICP, but also doing some SEO best practices.
Yeah. Going into how you understand the ICP and the product as well, what other types of research do you conduct usually? You mentioned sales calls. What do you do typically?
Yeah, it's a good one. So I actually place more weight on this than the actual SEO work itself, especially as I believe like content's one of the biggest needle movers, especially for businesses that haven't done much SEO before. So in our onboarding forms, we ask quite deep questions around the ICP, the industries they reside in, the expensive problems that you solve, how they often get, big fan of the jobs to be done framework. So how they often get the job done before reaching that struggling moment becomes so frustrating, they start to options to get it to the new, better way. I don't know if you see a similar thing, Chris, but nearly every SaaS company I speak to, it sounds like their prospects are usually muddled in spreadsheets or Excel sheets or Google Sheets. That's 99% of the time. The internal way of getting it done is Google Sheets, and they realize that's wasting so much time, or employees are getting frustrated, or employees are even leaving to other companies that have better processes, or clients are getting annoyed, or too many admin hours and just causing pain all around. They might even Google something like, I don't know, how to build a content calendar in Google Sheets, or how to do XYZ in Google Sheets, and then that's when you can position your tools. So jobs to be done, great framework to know that struggling moment, so then your content can attack it.
And also because a lot of times those that have that status quo use case, like spreadsheets, their switching costs are even higher. So you have to do more education, more work to actually convince them to switch to something entirely different that does the thing that they want to do.
Good point. Yeah, good point. So that kind of stuff, like understanding how they're getting the job done now, understanding why customers choose you over competitors. Like, why do they select you? Is it customer support? Is it price? Is it because you have different features? Is it because you solve different problems? Is it quicker time to value? What is it? All those kind of things. Common questions raised on sales calls, common requests. How do prospects actually describe your offer? You describe it as cutting edge all-in-one wizardry for tech teams. They describe it as an admin platform. I don't know. Something. How do they actually say when they book a demo on your sales team? What do they say? I need help with XYZ. What is XYZ?
Yeah.
Because we're all guilty of kind of thinking that our customers know the buzzwords we use. So that kind of stuff I really like because it's useful for the content side of things that gets put together. And then, there is some general SEO questions in there as well that we like.
Does it ever happen that when you ask for that data to your clients, they either don't know or it's very confusing? And what do you do in that case?
A lot of the time. A lot of the time. So I don't do, I used to do loads of website builds. But these days, I tend to stick to, we do website support for SEO clients because it goes hand in hand to help them build out articles, build out landing pages, etc. And we do some smaller SaaS websites. But for big kind of B2B tech websites, often intro, trusted partners, reason being is so many of these companies come to us, they haven't done customer research. And it's, you want to build a brand new website, but you don't know what your dream clients actually care about. And it's like, you're going to spend 50 or 100 grand more. But it needs to resonate. The messaging needs to hit home. The design needs to hit home, etc. It's just like a wasted effort. And to answer your question, a lot of companies do, and we'll try and give them like the tools that they can use because it takes quite a bit of effort to do it properly, but it's very worthwhile. Kind of talking to your recently won prospects and churned customers and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, what role does positioning and messaging play with SEO? Because let's say that someone like myself just work on the positioning, messaging strategy, and maybe copy for your client. Then you jump in. How do you take all of that research strategy work and make sure that your content or your optimization is aligned with that?
Yeah, a good one. You might have better experience with this than myself. So maybe we can hear your 2 cents as well. Yeah, I suppose it's understanding what's there already in terms of research and positioning. So certainly from the customer research, a lot of what we've touched on, pulling those insights. So if we are creating articles, landing pages, comparisons, product listicles, whatever type of content we're building, we can make sure that customer research is ingrained in the content. So whatever we're talking about, if it's product, if it's how to fix a struggling moment, if it's why you should choose us over competitors, we're actually weaving in the stuff that dream clients say so we can hit home. In terms of positioning, I don't know, that's a good one. I'd like to hear your thoughts because I can say what's worked for us and some others, but I'd be interested to hear what you think.
Yeah, I would ask, what type of like documents and positioning strategy do you see your clients when you jump in? Do they have a clear framework? What do you take in? Or is it pretty much just they tell you in your form what they think their position is?
Yeah, not that many have it. Not that many B2B tech companies seem to have it. The bigger ones tend to, like mid-market enterprise, tend to have these crazy documents. But then to be fair, a lot of that's fluff.
Crazy, crazy fluff.
A lot of that's been so massaged internally
Yeah.
that it's now so far away from what the customers actually say.
Yeah.
Sadly. So usually I find the short, snappy answers that get on our onboarding form are actually better than these massive, certainly from customer research and positioning point of view. So we normally would ask for, what do you have already? What can you give us? What intel can we grab from, or can you grab and give us and extract from sales calls or discovery calls or customer success calls and all that kind of stuff? And it might be that some have a super crisp value prop. They have a clear top 3, 4, 5 problems that they solve that are raised on sales calls all the time. They have their positioning now, they have their ICP now, they have this clear, and then others might be somewhere in between, might be still building it. So it's a bit of a mixed bag that we see.
Yeah, and I think it's especially important when it comes to positioning, especially when you have to address the differences with competitors, right? To write those competitor comparison pages. How do you understand those differences and how do you present them on a competitor page? Do you have a structure as well for those competitor pages?
Yeah, good one. Basically do the opposite of what most companies do with their competitor pages.
Which
I
is?
saw something on LinkedIn yesterday where someone literally they built a competitor page and they just slated their top competitor. Like they had a comparison table and they said, XX, our competitor doesn't do this, but we do tick, tick, tick.
Yeah, they don't do anything of what we do.
Do you think your customers are stupid? It's just like, how can that work? So yeah, not every SaaS company does that, but some do. And it's just a weird way to go to market. But yeah, I suppose it's one, taking the insights, because typically how these competitor pages are structured there's actually a few different ways. So there's one where you might have a versus page, which might not even be your own brand. So in the calendar scheduling space, it might be Chili Piper versus Revenue Hero. And then let's pretend you were HubSpot meetings. Then you might have as the last one versus HubSpot meetings. So you might talk about Chili Piper, then you might the pros and cons, then you might talk about Revenue Hero, the pros and cons, and then you might say, have you considered HubSpot meetings? And then this is where perhaps those two, what we've heard from our customers, fall short a little bit. This is where we double down. You might even say we don't do this, like we don't serve this ICP, we don't do this use case, but because leading with your flaws, as great salespeople know, builds trust, but we're great at this. So I suppose it's doing your research, right? Talking to folks that have moved away from those competitors, getting intel there, reviewing those competitor websites.
And it's probably also a great way to show that you're the higher up authority rather than just saying, oh, we are the shit. So you basically position yourself as like the guide that also suggests and recommends your solution.
Exactly. I often say, like years ago, I sat on one of the worst sales calls of my life. Like someone convinced me to take a demo on LinkedIn for a DM because it was a problem I had. And they said, we've got this offer. And I said, yeah, sure, let's jump on a Zoom. And the salesperson, I went on the Zoom, said, hey, nice to meet you. And then literally talked for 15 minutes straight about the product, the offer, awards they've won, how great they are, how cheap they are, how cool they are, case studies, all this slideshow. I couldn't get a word in edgeways. And like 15 minutes in, I was like, I'm sorry, man, I'm going to have to cut this short. It's been 15 minutes. This is a discovery call. You haven't asked me a question. Like, I wish you all the best, but that's it for me. So I think of that as so many websites, so many articles, so many comparison pages. Like, it's just not believable. In fact, it's a repellent, right? If you're not transparent, if you don't lead with aren't as great or where your flaws are and then where you excel, just builds a lot more trust. Does the same in sales calls, does the same on websites, does the same in messaging. Yeah.
So this is something that I typically do with the copy that I write. So writing for the different ICPs in the decision-making unit, especially in B2B, right? Is that something that you keep into context when you do SEO? Like how do you address the different decision makers and types of decision makers?
I would imagine you probably do that in a bit more detail than we do. So it'd be interesting to know your process. We do to a certain extent.
Yeah, it was interesting. Is that something that you map out with the keywords, or do you just look for the most valuable ones and then create the content there?
Yeah. So when you say use cases, do you mean like industries or niches?
Yeah,
maybe?
those, and also for CMOs or for CFOs.
Yeah, we do. I suppose we always go at it in a time to value perspective. So some of those might be good for the first 3 months if we're mapping out a content calendar and certain topics and keywords we want to hit with pages. It might be that some industry use cases we think have commercial value that we can rank quite fast for, build out pages for, and start seeing kind of qualified traffic come in for. If so, yes, then we try and, especially if it's a technical product, then we might try and extract some subject matter expertise from the client or from the subject matter expert on the team around that use case, or pull in what we've got. And again, if it was, I don't know, some kind of article or page that was specifically for like how to do this if you're a CMO or whatever it might be, maybe there'd probably be less prioritization on that because we wouldn't see it as having as much kind of sales intent behind it or commercial intent if someone's going to Google. But we might do it later down the line, and then we might extract the expertise we need from the team and then make sure we're hitting on stuff they care about. But you might have a better process for that from a copy perspective.
Yeah. For me, it's mostly just understanding, okay, what's the sequence? How do they make decisions? Is the CMO the first one to look at the copy, and then he brings up, I don't know, a case study, the CFO, blah, blah, how does it work? So yeah, I was wondering, like, is there a sequence? But it looks like, what I understand, that's more of like education side of things, is less intent. So for you, it doesn't have that same priority.
Yeah, and this is where SEO gets a little bit more complex as well, because you have something called topical authority. So sometimes if you want to rank a high sales intent landing page, for example, or product page, then we might build supporting articles to build something called topical authority, which might be some of those ones you just mentioned. In which case, yeah, we would want to speak to the business and understand who is this, like really, who is the end prospect that's going to be reading this. And let's make sure we actually cater to them if they're the ones doing it, than maybe a prospect that might not actually be reading the material.
Yeah. Cool. Last couple of questions. The big one that you probably answered maybe in different ways, but is B2B SEO dead in 2025? What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely dead. So SEO's dead. Like I often say, SEO died a long, painful death in 2024, along with cold calling, cold email, LinkedIn ads, demand generation, demand creation, and basically everything else on the internet, at least according to LinkedIn, unless it's a service you sell and that's alive and well.
Yes.
So I think it's changing is the main thing, right? So there's a few things that are quite interesting. One is Rand Fishkin, who was quite big in the SEO space. He did a report with his company, SparkToro and Datos. And they did an interesting report that showed that Google still gets 373 times the amount of searches compared to ChatGPT and AI tools. That was a few months back. And I think he said if you combined all the AI tools, ChatGPT, Gemini, etc., together, they'd only take up 2% of the full market, which shows Google by far is the monster still. But let's be real, AI search is only going to grow. So if you're ignoring that, it'd be foolish. But what to consider is still in most cases, Google is the monster. I look at it in this way. If you've got a technical end user, i.e. you sell to quite tech savvy folks or developers, whoever, and they're probably using AI tools for most of their search now. So it makes sense to have kind of quite a good weightage on your strategy towards ChatGPT and AI tools. If your end prospect is a bit more old school, a bit more of a layman, they're probably sticking to Google. But many more people are still sticking to Google. So I'd say the strategy we've talked about, sticking to the bottom of the funnel, is still really effective. A lot of top funnel searches are getting wiped out in Google with the AI overview instant answers. But yeah, we need to be building. You need to be building and thinking about how you can start showing up on ChatGPT and LLM. And a big part of that, from what we've seen, no one, like if anyone says they've cracked the code to ranking on LLMs, they're lying, because no one knows 100%. And because some of the queries are so nuanced. Like on Google, you might search best calendar scheduling of HR teams. On ChatGPT, you might search, I'm a HR director with 75 staff. I need a piece of software within this budget and this time frame that's going to do X, Y, Z. Super complex search, right?
Yeah.
How do you know how many people are searching for that? How do you know exactly what's going to rank for that? But a big thing that seems to work well is brand visibility. So in the tech and SaaS space, that is getting brand mentions on niche relevant websites. And we know this is PR and link building traditionally in SEO. And quite often that means finding sites that have these top 10 listicles for your category or your software and getting listed on those, because that's an easy way to get a brand backlink. That seems to work super well in the tech and SaaS space, because a lot of the time ChatGPT will then churn out, these are 5 brands you should consider, which is a classic SEO play too. And that seems to be a big thing. There is other stuff like writing in a conversational format, structuring your page well, embedding rich media, but that seems to be one of the big things right now to getting found on LLMs.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of times when I search on ChatGPT, I get videos as well embedded right away.
YouTube is really underrated, man. So many B2B companies sleeping on YouTube, and YouTube videos show up really well on Google as well.
Still, even with the AI results.
Big time, really good way. And if you embed a video on a YouTube video on pages, it seems to improve the ranking from my experience, and you can sometimes get a little image next to the result on Google, so it gives you an increased click-through. So you can actually, if you want to really own Google, you can rank in the video bar, you can rank with up to 2 organic pages, where you can rank 3 results in the video bar, you can rank with 2 organic pages, like an article and a landing page, for example, and you can maybe have an ad. So you can get you can completely own the real estate on Google if you're smart.
Saturated. Yeah.
Which is what you want to do.
Yeah. Actually, this brings me to my next question, which is, I know that you went around in London asking people, has AI killed Google? So what did you learn?
Not a lot, really. It was funny because for anyone that doesn't follow me on LinkedIn, which is probably everyone, I basically went around, I've done it in a lot of cities over the last year or so, but this time I wore a massive walking sandwich board that on the front said, AI killed Google, or AI killed SEO, and on the back it said, if you're doing it wrong. The funny thing was that the main people stopped me were tech founders.
Oh.
There was 2 or 3 tech founders that just stopped me and they said, no, it hasn't. Or they said, do you really think it has? Do you really think Google's killed AI or AI's killed Google? And these were like founders that were seeking funding. So it was quite an interesting
nice
one. But most of it was just thousands and thousands of tourists just looking at me like, what the heck is that guy doing?
You're spreading the word.
I was spreading the word. And there was like people taking photos. There was someone that had a go at me outside Buckingham Palace. It was like, you shouldn't be doing that, man. It was quite funny. There was some interesting ones. There was one interesting one specifically. It was one girl that said, yeah, Google's definitely killed AI because I use ChatGPT to search for everything. Let me go on my phone. But then she said, oh, no, actually, I still use Google for this. So it was like she was dead against it, but then she realized she still used Google for certain things.
Yeah, it's probably because
Um,
it's so innate now, almost that it's second nature. People don't even think about it, like how many times they use it.
exactly. You nailed it. It's ingrained, isn't it? Like I'm going to Google it. So it always comes back to jobs to be done. Like we know we're so familiar with this way of doing things. It's going to take a lot of habit to
Yeah.
move to GPT or similar.
Will it ever become I chatted GPT it? No, I'm not
Quite a
sure.
long way of saying it.
Yeah. All right, cool. Where do you go to learn, Sam? I'm always interested in asking.
Where do I learn stuff? From all sorts, really. I'm not traditional methods, hence ask the public. So a lot of the stuff I learn in B2B marketing isn't really from marketers. So one, I interview a lot of marketers on my podcast, Breaking B2B, which is a great learning curve to know what they're doing to drive growth. Also, I say read these days, a lot of audiobooks, but not really on marketing. So a lot of sales books, like great book I always mention called Gap Selling. I think any marketer needs to read it because it talks about where a prospect is now, their problems, the impact of not fixing that problem. And there has to be a gap. If there's no gap between their current state and their desired state, there's no sale. And it really dives into like problems, impact, desired outcome. Really good book. There's a lot of sales books that do similar, but that one does it particularly well. And things like Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, just really smart books. A lot of I listen to these days. I listen to a lot of stuff. A lot of people shit talk Alex Hormozy, but I think a lot of stuff he puts out is brilliant. Just no BS, straight to the point. Entrepreneurship. I like Louis Grenier's podcast, Everyone Hates Mark. All sorts, really. A lot of stuff outside of SEO. Yeah, I listen to SEO updates from some folks and I keep a good pulse on what's going on. But I think a lot of stuff carries through from B2B marketing and sales in general. So it's smart to have a good grip on the industry outside of your niche.
Nice. My last question is, what's one thing that you're trying to master now?
Right now, building a team. My weakness, operations, building a team. I'm very bad at it. Yeah, trying to scale this business, Breaking B2B, quite a lot over the next year or so. So I need to hire some more folks so I'm not doing everything. So that is the current challenge.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. It's been great to have you. So where can people find you? Your website, breakingb2b.com, the podcast as well, and on LinkedIn.
Yeah, you nailed it. Those are the three ways. Really appreciate it. LinkedIn, Sam Dunning. Website, breakingb2b.com, or podcast is Breaking B2B.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Sam.
I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for listening. If the episode sparked some ideas or made you rethink how you're doing messaging, check out the Message Market Fit Scorecard. It's free, quick to complete, and it'll show you exactly where your copy or strategy might be misaligned. You'll find the link in the show notes. And if you want to go deeper or just bounce ideas around, I'm always up for a chat. Hit me up on LinkedIn or Twitter @SylvestriChris. And of course, if you enjoyed the episode, leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify really helps more people discover it. That's it for this one. See you next time.